ITIL, incident management. Have you ever heard the phrase, don't sweat the small stuff? I think it was actually a series of books that was put out a couple of years ago, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Well, the title of this nugget should be, go ahead and sweat the small stuff, especially if it's an indication of a greater underlying problem. Not a very catchy title, I know, but that's what incident management is. So if you're ready, let's take a look at this next topic in the ITIL series. In this nugget on incident management, we're going to look at 5 key knowledge areas. First of all, we'll get an overview of incident management and some key definitions of terminology. Then we'll look at the incident life cycle, incident escalation, and then we'll talk about functional versus hierarchical escalation, or horizontal versus vertical escalation. And then finally, the benefits, costs, and challenges of incident management. You know, it always helps to have some definitions right off the bat, and there's no better place to go to define something than the ITIL Glossary version 3. Now, I recommended to you earlier that you go ahead and you get this document, and you might want to use this document throughout this nugget series to kind of cross-reference terminology as we go. A lot of the exam is going to be simply testing your knowledge of basic fundamental terminology. For example, what is an incident? Well, an incident is an unplanned interruption to an IT service or the reduction in the quality of an IT service. An incident is also the failure of some configuration item that has not yet impacted your IT service. For instance, the failure of one hard disk from a mirrored set. Now, incident management is the process that's responsible for managing the life cycle of all of your incidents. The main goal of incident management is to return the IT service to users as quickly as possible with as little impact on the organization as possible. So again, don't forget about this ITIL Glossary version 3. So we've determined that the goal of incident management is to lower or even eliminate effects or occurrences of IT interruptions or disturbances or reduction in service quality. And our goal here also is to get our users back to work ASAP, as soon as humanly possible. This means your incident manager and his team needs to hire the appropriate specialists, the appropriate people with IT expertise to record, classify, and allocate or route to escalated tiers all of the incidents that occur. All along the way, the progress of incident management needs to be monitored. All the incidents must be resolved, and once they're resolved, the process should be officially closed with accompanying documentation. This next diagram kind of gives you a sample of incident management, and I've done this in kind of a vertical process from the bottom up, but this can be a horizontal or a vertical process, and we can see this is a vertical process here, and we'll talk about the differences as it relates to escalation of incidents here in a moment. But again, at the bottom we have, of course, our customers, our users, our power users, our corporate application management. And then from there, it's going to move in the incident management process to the first line or the first tier. Again, this can be vertical or horizontal, and that's our service desk, which we've discussed in detail earlier in this CBT nugget. Then the next tier or the second line is our network management, our server management, or the central processing. That's who the service desk is going to go to as they escalate incidents. Then the third line, which is kind of the highest level of technical specialists, are the developers and the architects. These are the ones that have developed or programmed our systems. And it only makes sense that, you know, finally you're going to get back into the laboratory where Dr. Frankenstein and Igor are in there doing their thing. Now, once you move beyond tier 3, we have what's called the N tier, and this means bringing in vendors, third-party vendors, third-party suppliers, and third-party consultants that go beyond the expertise of our in-house organization. So we're going kind of outsourcing to the nth line, and that would be kind of the final layer of handling our incidences. Now let's go down to this bottom tier here where our customers and our users are. Remember that in the context of incident management, an incident, and I'm putting quotes around that, you can't see me, but my fingers are putting little quotes around it. Incidents are going to include not only software errors, but also hardware errors and just your fundamental daily service requests. They're all going to be handled in the incident life cycle. And these can be service requests, standard services with our customers that are going to be covered under service level agreements. And all of these things are going to be stored in an incident management database. Now, the software errors and hardware errors, that's one thing to understand, but what's a service request? Well, these are things like just basic questions about the status of a system, resetting a password, troubleshooting security credentials, a basic request for information, technical information, a functional question. Maybe you've got a power user who wants to extract information from a database, but they don't have the right role or privileges. Maybe it's a request for a batch job or restoring a database or questions about bringing certain types of hardware into the organization. Maybe it's information for a new employee and their settings for IT functionality and IT services. These are what we call service requests. So now that we've determined the scope of what an incident is, again, going beyond just a hardware or software error, but an actual occurrence that generates a change in the organization, what are the objectives and the benefits of incident management? Well, let's just go around the circle here. First of all, by managing incidents, we're going to reduce the impact on business by solving the issue as quickly as possible. We're going to improve user productivity by getting that user back to work quickly by following through on the incident. We also want to have an objective of obtaining independent, customer-focused incident monitoring. It'll also make our service level agreement information more readily available. Again, remember, a service request from a vendor or a customer about an SLA is an incident itself. We're going to lower the cost of doing business. Incidents piling up, and as we'll find out, an incident can be an indicator of an underlying problem. These can quickly add costs to doing business. One objective is to react quickly and efficiently to all incidences. We want to have active monitoring of user domains and the services that those users and customers are using. We also want to keep problems from escalating. Now that's a funny term to use because from time to time we will have to escalate the problem either vertically or horizontally to other tiers. But from escalating, I'm using the term here as it relates to becoming a bigger problem. By handling incidences quickly and efficiently, we can improve our user and customer satisfaction and overall goodwill to our company. We want to get more accurate operations. And one of the goals in handling an incident is to prevent the scenario of too many cooks in the kitchen. For example, training that first tier of customer support and service desk to handle as many basic fundamental incidences as possible without having to bring in other quote-unquote cooks from higher levels, higher tiers, or higher technical areas. They need to be focused on other more important infrastructure issues in IT. Let me give you a real-world example of what I consider to be a circumstance of bad problem, bad incident management. It was in my State Farm contract, and again, what we're doing here is we're upgrading servers in all the State Farm agencies in my particular region to Windows Server 2003. Now, what happened in about a 10-day window of this rollout, all of the upgrades and installations got canceled or pushed forward for a couple of weeks because all of the personnel from the service desk had to be pulled off this incident handling for the project into a more critical State Farm infrastructure issue. So not having enough cooks to handle the infrastructure problem forced this rollout project to be postponed because they had to pull people out of the service desk to deal with this issue. So by assigning too many qualified cooks to the first tier service desk, they didn't have enough back in the development and architecture area and IT operations area to deal with the infrastructure crisis. Next, we want to look at an important differentiation in the area of incident